Hi, this is Jay from I Wonder UK. Thanks for joining me on the fourth part of this series of sustenance, linking back to the six S's. If you haven't seen the six S's video before, that's six S's. Have a look in the description below. I'll drop a link to see where this fits in. But today we're going to be covering sustenance. And what I mean by that is basically food, water, and how we're going to actually warm that food up. The video today is going to be a crossover between what I think that you may need to be considering when you go out and what I use. This is going to be a brief overlay of subsistence. What I mean by that is cooking food and water. And I'm not going to go into it in too much depth, to be honest with you, because it's far too complex. That's not to say it's boring, it's interesting. I found I got a lot of enjoyment out finding what's available. So if we start off with cooking equipment, straight away we're going to need a stove to be cooking on. The options are endless when you actually start thinking, but you can either go to gas or something like a trangia or an alcohol stove. I've used both in different conditions. I love all of them, but that's one of the considerations you need to do is narrow it down to what you're going to be using it for, where you're going to be using it, and what works for you. If you're walking for 21 days, for example, you might not want to be carrying enough alcohol for your trangia for that long. So start doing a little bit of research, but that's what you need to be thinking of. So let's start kicking off with gas. You can buy the little gas bottles with the stoves on top. You may have heard a lot of information about jet boils. I personally started off with something I got off of AliExpress. I think it was about a tenner, a little spider one. I'll try and put a couple of pictures of stoves coming down from up here somewhere of stuff that I use. It's like the upright stove. I think one's £8 from AliExpress. I find the spider ones that fold out really good because it's got a lower center of gravity and it just feels that little bit more stable. And then you start needing thinking about a pot or a kettle or something equivalent. I've got a Vango pot, which is great because I can fit all my gas pot, all my stove, everything inside of that thing. But it is large and it's not super heavy, but it's large and bulky. I've also got, if I'm going in the summer, I've treated myself to a titanium cup, which are brilliant for if you're just boiling water. That's the ideal solution. Stove, gas bottle, titanium cup, you're sorted. Next thing you may need to consider is if you're not just going to have dehydrated food in cups of tea or coffee, what am I going to actually cook it in? I've got a little aluminium saucepan that I mainly cook and eat out of, to be honest with you. That works for me. But that's the next consideration. What are you going to be using for food? When we talk about food, there's a consideration of how long you're going away for. If it's an overnight, take what you like. Have a steak. I don't know, steak, asparagus, glass of red wine might be quite nice. But if you're going for a long distance, there's an obvious considering there needs to be a balance between the weight you're carrying and the calorie intake that you actually need. Now, do you go for dehydrated food? Those bags of food, I think they're quite good. I think they're expensive myself and I don't use them for that very reason because I can't afford to. Or like military stock of the meals in a bag, in a foil bag you can warm up or throw into your frying pan. I've got some of those and I use them if I'm just going for one night or 2 nights. Like I said, on a long distance walk, you do need to be considering how much weight because it soon builds up. I will be doing another video on how I handled long distance walking. It'll be in the description below somewhere if you're interested. But on a long distance walk, you need to be considering the weight that you'll be carrying for the food you'll be carrying and the necessity to be able to put calories back into your body at the end of each day. That's the ongoing issue. Those are things that you need to be considering for yourself personally, what works for you. Other obvious equipment, but it's obvious, but I'm still going to put this down on a list so you don't remember it, is a knife. If you're going to be making something, you may need to cut it up, spread something around or something. I use a pen knife. Works for me, can keep it clean. I use a pen knife, a teaspoon or a spork. When I talk about teaspoons, you'll see maybe on other videos, a lot of people talking about a titanium teaspoon with a long handle. They're great because you can get into the bottom of the bags. Me personally, I just couldn't justify spending 12 quid on a teaspoon with a long handle. Have a look in Poundland. I got 5 for a quid, literally 5 of them. And I've used that so many times. It may be a little bit heavier, but come on. I'm not sure how many grams we're going to be saving by having a titanium teaspoon, but I may be wrong. When it comes to making your brew up, like I said before, I've got a pot, which is a Vango one with heat exchanger on the bottom. I've also got a titanium cup, but I never make my tea or coffee in there or my porridge. I always have another cup. I would recommend what I call a sippy cup. A lot of people go for the collapsible cups, which are great and don't save space, but for the sake of a sippy cup, which what I'll show you a picture of it. A sippy cup for me is ideal because when I make a cup of tea, I sometimes get distracted, especially when I'm breaking camp in the morning. Put it down and forget about it and I don't drink it. Or, clumsy me, I knock it over. Get a sippy cup. They're a little bit bulkier. They're not that heavy. I've managed to get myself a second one from charity shop literally last week for £1.50. Got a screw on lid and a little sippy drink. You put the lid on. If you knock it over, you're not going to waste your drink. Ideal. And because it's bulky, I don't put it in my bag. I have it in a pouch on the front of my rucksack with my 500ml drink bottle inside of that, which works for me. I touched on this in the last video about rucksacks. I personally prefer to have water bottles in a bladder. That is personal choice, but water bottles, you can see where you are, you know where you're aiming at, how much water you've got left. A sippy bag, or a bladder, I think they're called, get to the stage where I think I'd be too concerned. I've used one before and I'm never quite sure how much water I got left because it's in the rucksack with other stuff and it's hard to tell the difference in weight. So with my rucksack, I've got always got pockets, one on either side, and I've got two 1 litre bottles with screw caps that I carry with me at all times, and those can cost me £1, would you believe? Maybe £1.50 at Poundland. Yeah, quid 50. Bright coloured. I've dropped them, thrown them about. I've had them on 54 days on the Southwest Coastal Path. I did break one of them. That was my fault. I dropped it on concrete and it was full, so it did smash. But for a quid, come on. Whilst we're talking about water bottles, the consideration for you when you're wild camping, and this is me personally, what works for me. I like to finish the day wherever I ended up with both of my water bottles full up with water. So I've got 2 litres of water. And my reasoning is I'm not sure how thirsty I'm going to be. It's really hard. You get to the end of the day, sometimes you're fine. Sometimes you feel like you need to drink a bucket of water, but 2 litres does it for me. It sounds a lot, but it goes quick. You think the time you make yourself porridge and a cup of tea, that's half a litre gone. Well, that's the following morning. If you want to make a hot chocolate for your night, that's nearly a litre gone. Cup of tea with your tea. So I always try and finish the day off with 2 litres. I also have a 500ml bottle in my front pouch here, and when I'm doing long distance walking, I always carry a vitamin tablet. It's trying to supplement your diet. You know you're not going to be eating very well. You're exerting a lot of calories. So I think for me, I'm trying to help my body and trying to help aid it. And that's what I carry on my front pocket. It's nothing special. I think the last time I had one was a Lucozade bottle. Screw cap Lucozade bottle in the top there. And you can get it out whenever you feel like it. Next piece of equipment on this, while we're talking about water bottles, is water filters. Do you need one? Don't you need one? For the weight of them, I always carry one. It's just that reassuring thing at the back of your mind that no, if you haven't got it, it gives you another option. I've got a Sawyer Mini, which with the bag, you squeeze it through the bag, through the filter into your water bottle where it's in your water bottle. I did try one that came as a water bottle in the filter, but the trouble is with that, what do you do if you want to make a cup of tea with it, for example? So for me, it makes sense to filter the water through my mini Sawyer filter, and then I can use it for what I want. There's a variety of filters out there, and you need to just explore. They seem to be a lot of money, but then you think about what they can do for you. I think they're worth it. The only things I would say when you're using a water filter, I personally always look for fast flowing water. I wouldn't take water out of a stagnant pond. And I'm also constantly aware of what I call cattle contamination. You're just wild camping just down the road and you've just walked through a field of cows, for example. You're always going to get stream. There may always be cattle drinking out of that further upstream, but you know in yourself that if it's worth a little explore going up and having a look. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to try and wrap this up. This video is about sustenance, food, water, and what you're going to do with it, cooking, etc. And it's basic overview. You go into a lot more detail, but it gives you something to research. It's things on a list of equipment that you need. It's all part of the 6 S's, which I said at the beginning of the video, and we'll be going on to the next video, which is about self. Please join me then. This is Jay from My Wonder. If you could subscribe or look in the description below if you need to find anything else. You subscribe, you won't be missing any of them, will you? Because it'll all build up to an aid memoir. Thanks for joining me. Jay from My Wonder UK. I'm out of here. Can I do any more? I don't know if I can do any more. I don't think I can do any more. A little spider one. And there's someone in the background now, and it's my girlfriend Al. I don't know what she's doing. She knows I'm in the studio. And cut. And I don't know where I was. I am live. I'm broadcasting on the BBC worldwide. And back in the phone.